Ooh. Sweetie, we got to crank out a couple more videos. What are you thinking for today? Hockey? No, no. How about special props? Special props? No. How about hoops? Hoops? Hoops. Hey everybody, Pete Corner here, the most famous Las Vegas odds maker you've never heard of. And today, after careful consideration with my staff, we're shooting for basketball. Of the four main sports, basketball uses the least amount of players playing at once with the smallest roster of any team event. That's why basketball is the most sensitive to injuries to key players or a cluster of injuries that could affect team depth, day in and day out. The uniqueness in creating point spreads and totals is a challenging one, as basketball is the highest scoring sport of the main four. This gives us some rather wide standard deviations on the sides and especially the totals in the pros, but wider on the sides when it comes to comparative analysis of the talent differences of college-level Division I teams. With football games being played weekly and baseball games being played daily, hoops and hockey land in the middle as far as play frequency. Players in the NHL and NBA are easily the best conditioned athletes as a whole, but even they're susceptible to a wide range of debilitating injuries and fatigue due to their length of scheduling quirks, particularly on the road. The latest issue before making the NBA lines is the now frequent use of player load management, where coaches will rest star players in those scheduling situations in order to preserve the health and well-being of a team's roster for the long run. So, before we can even start the analytics, as odds makers, we have to try to clear who is and isn't playing for that particular game. Okay, let's get started. As with all odds making tools, having up-to-date logs with each team is vital. Studying the opening and closing lines for sides and totals will give you a good feel as to how the betting public sees each team and where they're looking next. Check the spread against top quality teams and find an accepted range both at home and on the road. Do that for the mid-tier and low-level teams as well. An often overlooked analytic is the strength of a team's second unit. Savvy bettors will know if a team's depth can sustain quality minutes when the starters are rested, especially during garbage time when the play intensity is very low. Know the teams you're making lines for. Know the teams that go deep into their rosters for quality player minutes and who's left to play on the bench. Having that knowledge will help you add that nuance to a number you may feel need a slight adjustment. Any angle you can take a player's edge away is a good thing. In another era, not too long ago, totals ranged between 190 and 195. No more. Now we often see totals in the upper 230s and easily into the 240s. It's very easy to see which teams command higher consideration and vice versa. Find the range and which way the betting public is putting their money on, and of course always check the results. If they're winning, you need to change your thinking. If they're losing, slowly move in the direction they're betting because we do like to limit line movement, but you don't have to be as extreme. The challenge with totals comes when a very high-scoring team faces a low-scoring team. First thing is to check your logs. What was used in similar games played with similar analytics? If you're starting from scratch, take the midpoint of the two teams' averages. If the spread indicates a tight game, hedge a little lower, as a tight game may indicate teams playing with a little more intensity on both ends. If one team is a huge favorite, maybe go the opposite way. Go a little higher, thinking the inferior team will need to speed the game up if they fall behind early, where there will be less intense involvement on both offensive and defensive ends of the game. Usually as a starter, if two teams face each other within a week or so and are in the opposing venue of the second game, you can safely swing the point spread over 6 points as a solid base to start with. So if game one, home team was favored by 4 points, the next game at the other team's court, they'd be underdogs by 2 points. But let's say the teams are meeting at a neutral site in the second game. In that case, the swing would only be 3 points, and the previous home team would be a 1-point favorite still. When it comes to injuries, don't be too quick to overestimate a star's worth on the line. You'll be surprised to find that betting handle will look to come back on the affected team if you overcompensate. Know who the replacement is and how deep the team is. Top-tier teams are less affected by star players' absence than one-dimensional cellar dwellers who rely on 1 or 2 players for their entire offense. LeBron James' absence against the Dallas Mavericks is much higher than when the team is facing Charlotte. Know the difference and why. Now, here's your master class on college basketball. To save you from mind-altering times on a vast college basketball schedule, I really recommend spending $20 on a subscription to Ken Pomeroy's website. Average that with the Massey ratings for a solid starting point for any college game. If the predicted score is 80 to 66, you'll know that the line is 14 and the total is 146. The only thing you have to do is check out RotoWire for team injuries and make any adjustments from there. The reason why this will work is that gamblers religiously stay close to these numbers, and that's the pot of gold you're looking for. Sometimes it's as easy as that. That's pretty much it for basketball. It's your turn now to jump into the fire and get started. As for me and the staff, we're headed for lunch.